Serious. People that have had sex with someone with a disability. What was different about the experience? Was with a girl with a leg amputated above the knee. It was amazing, and the cuddling after was second to none. Hooked up with a blind chick one time. She was very handsy and less judgmental. It was a positive experience. I have Tourette's and sometimes I swear or slap myself in the chest. He says it doesn't change anything. I'm married to a man with a Barbie butt. But seriously, my husband has Crohn's disease and had surgery to remove his large intestine and place an ostomy bag a month before we met. 3 years ago he had his anus removed and his butthole sewn shut. Hence the smooth Barbie butt. Sex is completely normal and he's an excellent lover. The ostomy bag doesn't really get in the way and we've only had 2 accidents in the 5 years we've been together. It wasn't the end of the world either. He's incredibly attentive, caring, and very respectful. The biggest difference was he had a horrible self-image sexually due to closed-minded people he had been with before. A little open-mindedness can go a long way. You might end up with your soulmate who can actually listen to what your body is saying at the right moment. Repeatedly. Shared a floor at my dorm with a girl who had a below-the-elbow amputation. She had a very soft nub and would rub my taint and balls with it while giving me head or hand jobs. Interesting noises from a deaf girl, especially interesting when I wasn't aware of her deafness. We had communicated the whole night in the club via text on her phone, then her being a different nationality and me being in a different country. I'd assumed it to be a language barrier thing when she kept the phone texting up on the walk back to my room. I was quite drunk, which probably didn't help realizing sooner, but it was an instant realization once the noises began. The profoundly deaf make interesting sex noises. That is all. I had sex with a man missing his left arm and shoulder. He was really good at spooning. 10 out of 10. Would spoon again. I have cerebral palsy. Am wheelchair bound about 80% of the time and have such bad muscle spasms and tremors during high activity like sex that I'm prone to collapse or instant exhaustion. It's made for awkward encounters my whole life. However, it also led to me earning the nickname the human vibrator, and though encounters were awkward, I have never had an experience where they didn't orgasm. Between this and the free parking, I'd say I'm doing alright in life. My partner was born without a femur in one of his legs. Affects sex 0% from my perspective. He's expressed before that he's disappointed he can never hold a girl up against a wall and have sex while holding her. I can't think of a more uncomfortable position though and have no desire to try it, so I'm secretly glad that this isn't a possibility. Had sex with a mute woman. Honestly wasn't that different. Still lots of moaning, but didn't at all notice during the act. Switching positions was still normal too since we both gestured with our bodies. I dated a guy with spina bifida for a few years. Because he had decreased sensation in his genitals, he discovered masturbation with his nipples in his youth. That was incorporated into almost everything we did. He was also very easily turned on by dirty talk and could orgasm easily in the process of eating pussy. I was lucky. One of the downsides was he had a neurogenic bladder and was an intermittent cath user, so he had a constant UTI. The bacteria was just colonized all over in there, even with condoms. I also had UTIs all the time. I dated an absolutely gorgeous one-armed woman for a few weeks. Sex was great. Couldn't do doggy for obvious reasons. She broke it off with me because I was too immature for her, which I totally was at that time of my life. She ended up marrying one of my good buds and they have a son together. Very happy for both of them. For 2 years I dated a girl with ovarian cancer, not a disability actually but a condition. Those who don't know, it means she was infertile. I knew this before we started dating, so every time we made love I liked to keep it pure. In her memory, she would cry afterwards. I tried to make her feel that it was okay, but it's really hard even for a strong human being like her. In the morning she acted like all was fine, but I knew how much she was still hurting. Suddenly her situation started deteriorating. She developed a lot of other complications. On a routine visit, the doctor told us that she had only 4 months left. That's when I cried, and she told me it was okay. Then she asked me to break up. She said she didn't want me to go through all that would follow. She moved out and started living with her parents. I can proudly say that she was the stronger person BWN is. She made the decisions in our relationship, so I couldn't oppose her. She lived for 6 more months. I was hoping that somehow she might make it, but one morning her dad called me to say that she had passed away in her sleep. Jane, wherever you are, you'll be my beacon forever. A couple of years back I met a lady that was missing a lower leg and had a deformed arm. Took her to my place and went to bed. Not really anything unusual about it at all up until this point. In the middle of the night I need to go to the bathroom, so I step out of the bed and onto her leg. Her prosthetic leg that she had taken off and placed under the bed. I look down and see a foot. This is unusual to me because it has never happened before and I legit in my drunken train of thought there was a dead body under the bed. It scared the crap out of me. It took me half a minute to realize it was hers. Husband has type 1 diabetes. I always know shit's about to get real when he unplugs his insulin pump. Like, yes, unplug that so you can plug into me. Dated a girl who was blind about 7 years ago. Having sex with her was pretty normal, although she used her hands a lot more. To clarify a small detail, we dated 7 years ago. The woman in question was born blind and, as far as I know, still is. I'm in a wheelchair from a spinal cord injury when I was 17. In college, I met a girl who was also paraplegic as well as having a traumatic brain injury that left her with some memory and speech issues. We spent a lot of time with each other as part of a disabled students group, hanging in our dorms because our rooms were accessible. She had been injured when she was just 7 and her overprotective parents had kept her very sheltered. She eventually got comfortable enough with me to confide that she had never been intimate with a guy before. That led to us kissing and exploring her sexuality. It was awkward and comical at times for a paraplegic guy to be sexing a paraplegic girl, but mostly it was very intimate and lots of fun. I knew about urological stuff and could identify with her concerns with body image issues so she could relax with me and be at ease. We went slow and she gradually got more comfortable and came to like having someone look at her body, not in a medical way, but with sexual desire. Lots of discoveries for us as we went along, trying everything. Stuff like finding that using a wand and oral was able to get her to have multiple orgasms in a row. A really special moment for both of us. We were scared about autonomic dysreflexia, but it wasn't an issue. We spent the better part of a year just playing with each other's bodies. It was great. She went on to date and have relationships and eventually got married. We still keep in touch on Facebook and I'm really happy for her. My partner is a bilateral above knee amputee, and doesn't wear prosthetics. We can't do it from behind, but he's extremely flexible. Lack of muscles and tendons do this. We found some positions that work better for us and others that really don't. 10 out of 10 would highly recommend shagging him. Hooked up with a blind guy a few years ago. Honestly, some of the best sex of my life. Intimate as hell. He was a huge cuddler, and we actually talked a whole lot. Even though it was a hookup, we became friends after because of how much we just chatted. Lol. 10 out of 10. Dated a girl with MS in the past. She walked with a limp and had some motor control issues, but the sex was pretty normal. She struggled being on top, but she gave her all. That's the thing about disabled people. The ones that really make it in life have god levels of enthusiasm for the whole deal on account of the joy of triumph over massive strife. It's like this kind of joy that needs a critical mass of suffering to understand and experience. But when you do, it must be goddamn existential awakening. Judging by the disabled people I've known, they always make me feel like an entitled, jaded, unenlightened piece of shit because they've been so utterly screwed by the universe but so utterly seem to be content to exist in it. Off and on dated a blind gal in college. Sex was lots of fun but had to make sure her dog was in the room but unable to reach, assist. Without being too explicit, the dog took a few times to get used to her orgasm without being distressed, and we had to stick to fun in the bed or he would be a tripping hazard. I also took a few elbows to the nose as we adjusted in the bed before we learned to talk a bit more, and that it made sense for her to pretty much keep a hand on the back my neck, forearm, so she could kiss me when she wanted to rather than just me having that luxury. Best advice I can say is after you get the nervous first time out of the way, spend a good long time just establishing touch intimacy so your blind partner can know their way around you. That and gain consent for each new area touching BC body language is so critical in avoiding surprises. She also loved sensory play with ice cubes. That's everything I can think of. We didn't work out BC, she couldn't see herself with me in the long run, but mostly BC I wanted to travel and move, and she had some understandable anxiety about that, which wasn't a priority for her. I told her using a pun to break it off was the best way to get bad news. I had sex with a woman who had lost most of her leg to cancer. They had even removed a piece of her hip. The strangest thing was that she really only had one ass cheek. I mean, she had two, but one was really small and the other was quite large. So it was like she only had one. Super sweet girl.